Alright, welcome back to Show Me Trucks. Let me show you how these projects go. This is what my LS engine gas pedal looks like. It's hideous. I mounted it to this piece of metal, and you can see the pink dots down there. I had ran a drill bit down and then moved it all the way and then ran another drill bit down. That way I see the movement. You know, obviously it moves less here than it does down here. I drew out a bunch of stuff for the gas pedal, so my foot, I need about 9 inches of gas pedal, but I only need 2 1/4 inches of travel at the top, which kind of sets the angle. This is the angle of the wood in the floor. I'm going to set up a hinge right at the seam, and then I was trying to figure out how much that 2 1/4 needs to move. I just did a bunch of math, geometry stuff, pay attention in school. So I think what I'm going to do is hack this off right here. I have this 1/4 inch steel. I'm just going to make it straight. That way it comes straight out of the bottom. This is the pedal setup that you're going to see. This is going to be a very simple looking setup like you would have seen in the 36. All of this assembly is going to be tucked up under the seat. That way the rod is just going to run straight under the cab. Also be tucked really close. That way you don't really see it. What I'm working on right now is I do not have a gas pedal, so I went to Tractor Supply and they have these little weldable hinges. This is going to mount with the hinge right here. I'm going to recess where the pin goes, but right now I'm making a little angle piece that's going to go across the bottom here, hold the boards together so that they can't move, because right now they can move. And also I'm going to weld the bottom of that hinge to that piece. The issue I'm running into is that this gas pedal is very close to the center line of the chassis, which means my transmission needs to run there. That means the linkage is starting to run into the transmission. So I'm going to mount the lever part all the way over to this side and maybe even bend it a little bit, because I need it to stay over there. So I cut up some 3/16 steel, which is not fun to do. That's why I didn't film it. I'm about to test fit it in there, make sure it works, and then I'm gonna weld that entire seam. Welding 3/16. Anything thicker, you can really just throw the heat into it and just kind of walk that pedal down. It's pretty fun, especially with TIG. Get a little bit of a prettier weld. So I'm gonna try to take my time so I don't warp it too crazy, because I want it to be able to mount and sit down flat. But also, that's going to be a visible weld that everyone can see every time they get in my truck. So, well, it turned out good. But what I forgot to do is where this sits up here, I was going to drill out so that this can sit down in this bottom plate. But I didn't do it, so now I get to do that, because I want the back of that to sit flush, so I can lay a bead here, here, and then on the top seam. that's how it turned out. I just kind of recessed it so that hinge could sit down in there. And then I welded the sides and welded the back side. So now everything's tight. I have as much gas pedal as I want, which it's only going to be about 2.5. But I also did not film it. I should have, but I actually recessed the wood so that this could sit down lower, because you could tell it's a 1/4 inch up here, so you see how tall it is. Well, I recessed it to 1/8, so it's only about a 1/16 of an inch up. But once I pull that together, it'll tighten everything up. But this is what you'd see in the engine compartment side. But I had to make this little piece to clamp everything together, hide that seam a little bit, but also keep water and stuff out of there. But this is what the gas pedal looks like. It does hang out the bottom. I have my movement like I need. Like I said, I only need 7/8 of an inch of travel. So pretty happy how that turned out. I do wish it was farther over, but it's not. I might be a little frustrated once I go to put the engine in, but that's how that turned out. I need to tighten it up and cut those bolts down, because obviously they're hanging out too far, but they didn't have the size I needed at the store. So I didn't have another piece, so I had to make it. I welded that up. This is the pin that is going to go into this pedal. So I put a bunch of washers in there to space it out 3/8, which is how thick that metal is. Once this pin goes in, I use a cotter pin, which is appropriate because they use a ton of like castle nuts and cotter pins on this truck. So I want it to look right. I didn't want it to look too out of place. I'm also going to paint that rusty brown. That way it looks like the rest of the truck. Here's my setup. Pumped. All these welds look good, so pumped on that. It does have a little rattle side to side. I'm gonna see if it bothers me. I'll work on it. If not, I won't. You can see that lever back there goes through the floor. I'm gonna have a piece of leather from the seats be like my kind of grommet. But all this is mounted. There is a hole just like on the other side that I want to fill in. If you haven't noticed, electrical plug goes in here to your PCM. It lets it know what's going on with your gas pedal. But now I push this, my gas pedal moves. I like how it looks underneath. I kind of just smoothed out some of these ends. That's 1/2 inch rod, way strong enough. But like I said, I'm gonna make a leather piece. That's my grommet, and then some kind of trim piece to hide that a little bit. Happy about how that turned out. I didn't want this pedal hanging up. I hate if it's not supposed to be in here. I don't want it looking like that. So I didn't want a big lever hanging in here. The brake pedal kind of comes through here. So I might have to trim that down a little bit. I tried to make this as tight as I could in here. And this is brake pedal is about 4 inches wide, so I might trim it down to 3 and just kind of modify that a little bit. Plus I need to pull all this out. I'm gonna paint that the same brown as the gas tank. Same with, I'm gonna paint this black or brown or something. The stuff in here doesn't really matter. This I'll paint the brown. So but let me explain what's going on with my wheels. So these are the artillery wheels that come with this truck. 6 lug, 17-inch rims, and I think 3.5 or something wide. They're not very wide. I actually got all these sandblasted. If you've seen the other videos, they looked horrible. I will never be cleaning wheels again. It wasn't that expensive. They're done. I would have wasted way more of my time So super pumped on how that turned out. So I have 5 of them. They're all sitting over there. I just scuffed them up, even though the sandblasting keeps them really rough. But I have this rust bullet paint that I've had forever. So hopefully it's still okay. I already opened it. I'm gonna stir it up. Just black, gloss black. I'm gonna brush paint this on because it's an old truck. I want it to look how they would have restored an old truck like this. I painted them glossy black because this paint apparently doesn't handle the sun very well. So I'm hoping it kind of fades down. I know it's really glossy and doesn't fit the truck that well. Back to the wiring setup. You saw me cut that hole. Well, the other hole I cut was because there's these holes in the floor. So I went ahead and just put a patch in there. Bracket piece that I made, that I guess you guys haven't really seen yet, can sit flat to the floor. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm also going to put a little gasket in between that, and it's actually going to mount from the bottom. This is the setup that I've been working on. This is going to be my heater hoses. There's a vintage air heater defrost setup. They're going to go underneath, and then on top is going to be my electrical running on top. This holds my fuse panels and stuff. This was actually the piece I had before. I really didn't want to make another one, so I just kind of like bent it up and roughly got it to hold. So that should be good. Gas pedal module. This is your PCM. All that will make more sense once I put the fuse panel in. So, and guys, preach to you about going green. This piece is actually from the roof of my 67 that I bent, drilled some holes. This is going to be a heater vent, or a tube that's going to exit underneath the seat. This is exhaust that was on that 36 1.5 ton chassis. I needed 2-inch, so that's how you reuse old stuff. I cleaned out the inside, cleaned out the outside. Hopefully it welds okay. But I'm going to weld that on. It had a hard contour to get, but it all butts up now. And then that will screw into the back side of the seat. That way it's actually my defrost. My defrost will run out behind the back and hopefully heat up the cab enough. Because if you run heat, it usually just exits right out of the vintage air heater. Also, that will come out because there's enough rust holes in the bottom that it should come out from behind my seat. And also, hopefully heat up the back of the cab. But I will not have defrost for my windshield because there's no way I want to run piping up and through and have it exposed, because all my wires and everything that come up from the bottom of the cab have nowhere to hide in this truck. So you see everything, and I don't want to. So I will have some wires that come up, but not very many.